Afternoon. This is a screencast that is going to focus on secondary data collection. Hopefully we'll have time to be able to do another one that's focused on elementary data collection, senior data, and the CCI at another point in time, but right now we're going to focus on secondary data. Hopefully this should be informative and help guide you through that process. So when you get to the AVID splash page here, you're going to get to the blue taskbar here at the top and click on Data Collection, Secondary Senior Data Entry System. Which will take you to another portion of the website that includes some links here to Site Data Help, Senior Data Help, as well as our due dates and our data forms. We're going to focus on the forms today because our data entry system does not allow for an upload of data, but rather you're going to have to collect it and then you're going to have to hand enter it. So the data form is really important for you to be able to more easily complete this process. So when you click on data forms, you're going to click on secondary site data, 2021 data forms, and you'll have a PDF document. When you download it, it will look something like this. And I want to spend a couple minutes just focused at the top part, the directions here, because it'll help kind of maybe reduce some frustration as you go through the process. Um, I want to tell you that if you can't find the information, you've tried, you can't access it, you can put a U in for almost everything on the form except for items 1 through 15. So if you can't get information, you can put a U in there. The data, unless specifically discussed, focuses on 2021-22 academic year, and I'll try to highlight the parts where it focuses on something from previous years. If no students are in a category, you can enter a 0 and use actual numbers. And I think this last bullet is really important, that when we're talking about all students, we want to include our elective students and Excel students in that number so that we can then pull them out and look at the number of elective students and be able to see them as a portion of a population. So I encourage you to just kind of frame to look at this, as well as starting on page 9 of this PDF. There is supplemental instruction sheets that talk about each one of the data pieces here so that you have some additional guidance. So if you're struggling, the supplemental instructional data should be able to assist you in completing this. So let's go back to part 1. Again, this is demographic data for all students and elective students. If your student management system does allow you to create additional categories so that you can filter, I would really encourage you to have AVID elective and or Excel added to that list. It will just help you filter information and be able to pull numbers versus looking at full rosters and having to count students. So I would encourage you to be able to do that and talk to your data person or whoever manages your student management system to see if it's possible to add AVID elective and Excel students to that in the same way that you might flag students with IEPs and 504s and other identifiers. So this, again, this first section is really about demographic data. This second section looks at gender and grade breakdowns. So what's your student population in terms of grade breakdowns, and what does that look like in terms of elective students? And it's possible that you might have zeros in here if you're in an early implementation. Let's say you're just implementing for the first time and you have AVID elective students in 9th grade. You'd put those students there, and then you'd have zeros in those other sections. Below that, we get into some federal categories around economically disadvantaged, migrant families, and LEP. There, I would encourage you, if you're not sure what the classification is, or if you're not sure how it's being utilized in your district, go to your local state board of education. They usually have definitions for these categories, but they should be already flagged in your student management system. This next page gets into the number of sections available to students. So how many sections of AVID do you have? And then question 20 focuses on the faculty breakdown. So teachers, counselors, and other administrators, not including the principal. And then how many of those people have been AVID trained? And I encourage you to look at the language here in section 20 here. It includes AVID Summer Institute, PATH, Digital XP, Excel, as well as other trainings where people have gotten at least 12 hours of district director-led or staff developer-led training via the AVID professional learning modules or APLMs. So people can be trained in a lot of different ways, and we want to be able to capture that. Most of that information is found on my AVID. You can go back and search historic registrations to see if people have been trained, except for the AVID APLMs, unless you have specifically been utilizing my AVID for that in your district. You may have been collecting that information another way. But most of it is able to be found uh, on my AVID. Then we're looking at AVID Excel training, the people who have been trained that stayed on campus. Hopefully that number is 100%. We want to know when the principal was trained or has the principal trained, and when that, how long it's been since the principal was trained. Then we're looking at people who have been continuously enrolled in AVID. So if they have been able to do it for 2 years or 3 years, as well as AVID Excel. And then we're getting into coursework, starting in question 28. So this one is the number of AVID elective students who are on track who have taken coursework that allows them to meet four-year college entrance requirements. So it's possible that somebody may have had to take a remedial course, and that course did not put them on path for college entrance. Hopefully that's an exception, not a regular occurrence. Questions 29 looks at concurrent or dual enrollment in college courses, or courses that are transferable. There are some additional supplemental instructions here, but really we're talking about students who may be taking part of their day at the local college or community college and part of the day at the high school. That would be concurrent enrollment. Or people that are dual enrolled, meaning they're probably taking a course either uh, most likely on campus, on their high school campus, that is counting for college credit. I think of maybe sometimes I've seen examples like calculus as a pretty good example, where it's offered at the high school and students can earn um, local college credit for that course as well. Question 30 gets into CTE and does not include PLTW, which actually goes into the next section on 31. So excuse me, all the coursework that's all in the CTE framework, excluding PLTW, and then if you have Project Lead the Way on campus, um, that's captured in 31 here. The next section really focuses on tutorials, and here we have all of our various tutor options, and so we're looking for the number of hours, various types of tutor configurations, and if you're not doing tutorials for some reason, we just want to know why. What's preventing you from doing tutorials this year, so we can understand that. So this is high school. This is AVID Excel. Scholar groups are framed here under AVID Excel weekly tutorials. Question 35 and 36 focuses on the site coordinator and if they receive either a stipend or additional planning to serve as a site coordinator. So just want to know if that is a common practice on campuses around the country. Question 37 and beyond here look at the courses that students are enrolled in on campus. And again, this might be an area where you really want to have that AVID elective student flagged in your student management system, because now we're looking at our middle school students, what courses they're taking, and we have kind of two different variations here. If they're taking honors pre-AP or high school credit bearing courses other than algebra or higher level math, and then this section gets into high school algebra or credit bearing math courses such as geometry or algebra 2. So we want to know if our middle school students are taking those courses. Here we want to know on your campus, are you offering AP, IB, AICE, dual enrollment CTE, or PLTW, and if so, the number of sections. And then we want to look at who are the students enrolled in those courses. Are AVID elective students taking them, and if so, at what grade levels? Are they completing the course? Are they completing the exam? And if they are taking the exam, are they considered passing, I guess, on the exam? 49 and 50 gets into students who earned all credits attempted. So we want to hopefully we see our 100% of our AVID students earning credit for all courses attempted. And then we look at attendance rates of AVID students versus all students. And the last section focuses on 8th graders. And we do realize that there are some districts around the country that are high school only districts where they would not necessarily have access to 8th grade information. Again, and so as we mentioned at the outset, utilizing a U for that information. If you can't access it or do not know it, that would be okay for that as well. But if you have that information, this is really good information to see about our last year's 8th grade students. And again, if any of the sections of this, like for example, apply to do not apply to your school, that's okay too. We want you to complete the things that are appropriate, but this is sort of a general data collection form. Speaking of data collection, we know that our data is the data window opened in October, and we have until about February to get that information submitted to our district director, February 11th, unless your district director has given you a different timeline for that. And they will submit it and send it to AVID Center. Site data is really important. It's one part of the certification process. AVID Center data, the CCI, and then if you have senior level data are all part of the certification process. And if you don't complete those things, it has an impact on your site's certification. So we really want to encourage you to do that. And so we've created this tutorial or walkthrough as a way to help support you in that process. I would just jump out and point out that if you have any difficulty with completing this, I'd encourage you to utilize this supplemental instruction sheet. If it's still unclear, we'd encourage you to reach out to your district director or, if need be, contact AVID Care or your AVID program manager. Thanks for your time for this, and we will hopefully be able to provide additional support for AVID Elementary, the CCI, and senior data in the future.